This is a resolution introduced by, or sponsored by Commissioner DeWitt and Commissioner Rivals concerning, using the ARPA COVID relief grant funding for purchase and installation of fire hydrants for Stanley Valley. So,
If no one else, did anybody else attend that meeting this afternoon? I can't remember, I can't remember who all was there, but I'll just speak about this. The chief of Stanley Valley, talked to us about, having these fire hydrants there, and he felt like it would be a good idea. Part of the conversation came up about, if we're gonna do it in one area, we need to look at doing it in other areas too, look at county-wide. But I think, and I'm not on the committee, I just took notes for them that night. But from what I felt the committee was saying was, let's start somewhere and then see where it goes from there. So they felt like it would be a good use. And I'm kind of speaking on behalf of the committee, but that's just what I heard when I was there, so.
Do you know, it doesn't state it here, or at least I didn't see it, and I read that over. They were talking about putting fire hydrant every mile. Do you remember that conversation?
I don't remember. Mr. Jesse, you were there that night, weren't you? Do you remember that?
Well, they were talking about the $60,000 we put in 10 fire hydrants. I don't know the length of it.
14 miles, they're talking about.
But, the gentleman, the newest person on the ad hoc committee brought up that he suggested that we look at how much it would cost to cover the whole 7 districts instead of just the 1 district. And bring that before the commission. Because, of course, Stanley Valley was the first one to bring it to the attention of the ad hoc committee. But this gentleman felt like that before we did just 1 district, we needed to look at all districts and see exactly how much money we're talking about before we went ahead and did 1 and then couldn't afford the others, which made a lot of sense.
Well, this resolution says not to exceed $60,000, pretty much the way it says, no more than $60,000. But I counted those intersections because they're in my district also, as it is in.
The question is every district gonna get $60,000?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying there. But what it is, I think I counted those intersections, I believe there's 9 intersections up through there. Now, putting 1 every mile, I wouldn't agree with that. I think it needs, if you're gonna do it at each intersection, because there's a lot of those intersections on 14 miles, and you've got 9 intersections, they're not gonna be too far, a mile apart anyway. So, of course, that's not stated in here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest, I do think it's something that needs to be discussed by the full commission, so I'll move that we send it on and then hash it out in front of the whole commission.
motion to send it on, is there a second?
Can I speak before you guys vote on
Well, let's
this?
get a second, then we'll discuss it.
Second.
Okay. We got it on the floor now. Eric?
I would caution you guys to take that to the floor, and I would caution you to vote on it. I adamantly oppose and think it's too early. Has anybody checked the feasibility of if this is an allowable expenditure against ARPA laws?
Yes.
The answer to that is, go ahead. You have?
Well, no. When the committee reported back, this usage of this money, based on what they told us, and I haven't looked myself, I'm going on what the committee said. What I heard them say was that it would be an allowable expense, but,
I would ask them to provide documentation to prove as such, because me and the mayor were on a conference call the other day with some individuals who want to help us manage our ARPA funds. And when that subject was breached, they asked the question, what expenditure category would you list that under? And so when you look under the ARPA funds, they have expenditure categories for each use you're gonna spend this money. And none of them sound to me, like a hydrant would be an allowable expense. They are focused primarily on clean water and drinking water, and a hydrant provides neither.
That was one of the things they brought up at the meeting in Johnson City. They took the water line to somebody, but a fire hydrant doesn't. I won't believe it fall under that. And the committee needs to do a whole lot more research before we approve this. They need to come up with the whole county, what's gonna cost, fire hydrants, then if it's gonna be approved on the money, they need to do a lot more work before this comes before full committee. I think this is just gonna cause confusion and mess up a good meeting. So I don't think we need to send it off
They
committee.
probably would cover a fire hydrant if it was put in while a water line was put in.
Exactly.
But after the water line's put in. they
Existing
won't
lines,
do
it won't do it. I
Yeah.
don't believe.
It lists the type of projects eligible under CWSRF, which is Clean Water State Revolving Fund Assistance. Includes projects to construct, improve, and repair wastewater treatment plants, control non-point source of pollution, improve resiliency of infrastructure to severe weather events, create green infrastructure, and protect water bodies from pollution. I'm not a water expert, but I don't think a hydrant hits any of those high points. So again, that portal for the state is gonna open up in January. I would hate to see the county get on the hook for money that is not a reimbursable expense, and then we're gonna be funding.
That would come under more under a safety issue, wouldn't it, under a safety grant, instead of, for doing something like that instead of.
I mean, I wish we had hydrants everywhere, but I don't see that this is the right money to achieve that.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
You're,
I may be wrong, but my understanding that the COVID committee are working with somebody in the state of Tennessee to see that what they recommend is approved before we vote on it, right?
That portal's not open for January. Now, I don't know what contacts, I know some of them have reached out to different individuals, but again, I would caution everybody, we're operating on the interim final rule. We still don't have the final rule.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I do, sir.
this is, and I'll say this, you know, it's not like this money's going anywhere. I mean, we've done got part of it sitting there waiting, and we don't need to let it burn a hole in our pocket trying to spend it. We need to make sure we listen to everybody and give everybody a fair shot. That's just like, and I know it's my district, but the mayor received a letter last year when we got that good money from the Tennessee money that we got.
But actually, we talked about it about 2 years ago.
Yeah, and, the Mooresburg Utility District requested $30,000 for, where we could extend the water line to the Big Hill area for the fire hydrant in the Spruce Pine community, and a fire hydrant at Mooresburg School. And of course, it's sort of conflict of interest to me, because I serve on the Mooresburg Utility Board, and I couldn't bring it up in the meeting, but it never did go nowhere. And, you know, we was asking for $30,000, and that was gonna extend the line, because right now, if we have a fire at Mooresburg in the Big Hill or Spruce Pine community, they have to travel all the way back out to 11W to get water. And we was just trying to make it safer for people, and we were gonna absorb some of that expense ourselves. But, you know, it's hard for me to sit and vote, and I'm for these fire hydrants, don't get me wrong, but it's hard for me to say, yeah, we're just gonna give one area fire hydrants when we've got other areas that's, you know, we'd like to have them also, and like it's been said, we don't know if we spend this money right now, we may end up having to give it back. And till we know for sure that we can, what we can spend it on.
Mr. Chairman, without objection, I'll withdraw my motion.
Motion been withdrawn. I'll give everyone the privilege, if anybody else has got anything to say about this, you know, I think, even though most have been withdrawn, we do need to get it out in the open and discuss, you know, if anybody's got any thoughts about it.
Eric, when did you say they'll have the final ruling on this? I mean, is it just fluid, they just keep bouncing it around?
They told us September, and we still don't have it, so your guess is as good as mine. I think last time they changed it from a month to a season. Still don't have it yet. But as soon as I get it, I'll be happy to share that with you. It takes us a while, I'm sure, to digest it. The last document, I think, was about 150 pages, but As soon as we get our hands on it, we'll start looking at it.
Do we have a cost for individual fire hydrant?
No, they didn't have intermediate.
I can get that, but I don't know exactly now. At one time, when we were talking about it before, we were talking about just material wise, somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. Does that sound right, Jason? Does anybody say anything?
I just remember them saying that they would designate a certain amount of money to it, not to exceed. And I was looking, I thought that within the motion, they were going to say something to the tune of that if this resolution passes, but it is not an appropriate use of ARPA money, that then that money couldn't be spent. I thought that would be part of the resolution, but I missed that part, so.
Is the
At the very end, it
fire
does have verbiage in it.
in every district gonna be costing the same?
Well, this is what my opinion that we would have to look at, it would be determined. See, a fire hydrant, in order for a fire hydrant to work, it has to be hooked to a 6-inch line in order for it to pump the water that it needs to pump. And if you don't have a 6-inch line, if you're planning on putting a fire hydrant at a certain place, you're going to have to extend the 6-inch line to make it work properly. Now, I do know they've got some of these smaller, like hooked to a 4-inch line, but for an actual fire hydrant, now that's what I've been told, I'm not no expert, but I've been told that it has to be a 6-inch line for it to work properly.
I think we need more research before we start voting on anything.
What I'm getting from this committee is that, and I guess a motion, entertain a motion that we recommend that this resolution be tabled until we can, is that what we're wanting to send on to?
I don't think you need a motion to table it because it's not really on the floor at this point. I would say, let's just pull it and then we can send a message to Chairman DeWitt that,
Well, what I'm saying is, our recommendation to county commission, are we recommending we approve this, or we recommending no recommendation, or we're gonna recommend that they table it till we can get more information?
I would say it didn't pass to go before commission, and therefore we're not gonna hear it before the commission.
Rick,
No, it's on the agenda.
I don't think, if it's on the agenda, you have to have one of your sponsors to pull it or table it.
Right, but we can recommend.
Yes.
Yeah,
you
we,
can recommend.
this can be the recommendation of this committee. In other words, that's all we do anyway, we just recommend. So we're just gonna leave it alone.
So,
Okay. No recommendation.
Talk to Mark and explain to him, see if he told it, and get more research on it.
All right, move on to number 8, and basically, pretty much same situation.
My recommendation is mostly the same, although the direction they're trying to head in this one is slightly different. They're trying to count this one more against our loss of revenue, which we've already proven. From the trainings I've seen, I'm still not 100% comfortable doing this until that portal is open, even though the loss of revenue is supposed to alleviate a lot of the restrictions of use of this money. The size of this expenditure, I don't see the reason to rush. That portal's gonna be open in less than 2 months now. It can be brought back up again. My recommendation would be we table it, we put it off, we make sure we've dotted all our i's, crossed all our t's before we spend that kind of money.
Mr. Jesse.
Prior to the last ad hoc committee, Woody, who was the liaison between the ad hoc and Nashville, read a statement that the turnout bureau was not part of the money to be spent. Now, if anything has changed since then, I don't know. But at the meeting prior to the last one, he read that the funding would not cover the turnout bureau. So.
Is that the reason they want to spend it out of the undesignated, the money that can go for anything? Out of that, was it 3-point-something million?
3.4, but I would caution to use anything because it's still not quite.
Oh, I understand, but that's why the direction they're going in, is just to try to spend it out of that.
Out of the loss of revenue. But again, I would feel much more comfortable. At the end of the day, it's up to the feds, not the state, but I would like to exhaust every resource we have to make sure we've taken a conservative approach and used every resource we have to make sure it's a liable expense against the guidance. And again, the final guidance still isn't even set. So to me, it's just premature. Money doesn't have to be obligated till 24, spent till 26. I don't see the rush. I'd hate to make a $1.5 million misstep.
Well, this is another thing too about that undesignated, I would think that we need to spend all that other first and leave that undesignated till last. And then that way you get a chance for everybody to present what they're asking for.
I think
If
it's
you
something.
spend all that undesignated to start with, then you're gonna cut some people plumb out.
Quite possibly, people who wouldn't qualify under a pure ARPA expense, but maybe would under loss of revenue. If you've already spent all your loss of revenue money, then you would close the door on that avenue. Of course, we can hit that avenue potentially, again, 3 more years, if we have loss of revenue to show. That's a calculation we'll run each calendar year to see if we have it or not, but I would hold off. That's my recommendation.
Mr. Chairman,
Again,
I'd like to say, I agree with Eric, I don't want to spend money, now that I'm hearing his side of the story, I don't want to spend money that we're going to have to pay back later. However, I don't want to hold off any longer than we have to either, because at the end of the day, these firefighters need some gear. I inspected their gear myself at Rogersville the other day, and their turnout gear was out of date as of 2020. So they're all using outdated gear at this point.
and again, too, I agree, and I'm all for these, these guys give their time, at least we can do is just, help support what they need.
But I certainly,
Until-
I want it to be an allowable expense though. I do think that we need to make sure.
We gotta make sure that we don't get in a bind on what we're doing.
Absolutely.
I'm all, until you have a house, I've had a house fire. And I'm gonna tell you, when those firefighters show up, I was glad to see them, And until you have a house fire, you don't really know how much firefighters mean. And I appreciate them. And I'm all about, giving them what they need. They can't fight these fires, go in a house without it. So, but we got to cover all bases too. So what's the recommendation?
Eric, will you be at the commission meeting that night?
Who's sponsoring?
You not be. Who's sponsoring? I would say the recommendation is, based on guidance from Eric, that we just need to wait and make sure they're allowable expenses.
Make sure that they know we're not against it, we just have to wait to the proper time.
But now, everybody understands, this don't cancel it. Whoever sponsored these, they gotta pull them or whatever. That don't mean that this not gonna go for county commission. Whatever her recommendations are.
Don't mean it won't go up for a vote.
Right. Have I overlooked, is everybody good with that now, or we're just gonna leave that alone too?
Yeah.